Okay, good evening, everyone. A Gemar Chasima Taiva. So our first order of business is to learn for our Chaver Daf Menachem Umansky, who is in the hospital for bronchitis and pneumonia, and he's making a big Kiddush Hashem, learning from his hospital room. As you can see, that's really quite amazing, the Mesiras Nefesh of our Talmidim, and it's a chizik for all of us. And we are sponsored in our tour through this Masechta by Shalom Fogel, Ilui Nishmas Yaakov Zev ben Yuda Aryeh, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tzivya Miriam Bas God, Yosef ben Siyam ben Yaakov Zev, by Baruch Ian, Ilui Nishmas Yaakov Chaim ben Abba, Esther Bas Gittel, Avram ben Shmuel HaKaim, by Yaakov Umansky, Menachem's father, but Akar Tov to the Rav and the Zoom family, and Nachas from children and grandchildren. A.B. Spry, who was in Eretz Yisrael, for Nachas from children and grandchildren. Ed Salah from London, and Joshua Rosenberg, a virtual Talmud. All of us in these very crucial days of Aseres Mei Tshuva, when we are all reminded to do Tshuva and improve, which is the order of the day, because Hashem is especially tuned into us. Dear Shua Hashem, b'matzo, seek out Hashem when He can be found. So it is very foolish if we don't take the opportunity to do tshuva during these days. We are learning on the bottom of Kuf Gimel Amud Beis, the beginning of the Gemara. And we welcome in Stephen Holtzman, who's joining us together with Baruch Ian, Dr. Block, Matthew Guy, Dr. Guy, Marshall Castle, Aaron Swade, I think that's Ben Cian Cohn, Shalom Fogel, Saba, Mo Kushner, Shimon Klein, Mark Frankel, Menachem Umansky, Irving Fishbaum, Yitzi Fuchs, Bruce Eisenberg, Shelley Zeitlin, Michal, Menachem Chapler, Nachman Chapler, Rabbi Kranz, Avram Schenkman, Moshe Lehman, Avram Rezepkowitz, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, Abe Arbach, Revelia Shutman, and Yitzi Muller, David Helfgott, on Kol Aloshin. Here in Shul, we have Berish Gasserman, Ruvain Shannet. I believe that Michal Avram should be coming shortly.
Rabbi Yitzi Muller mentioned yesterday he lost his grandmother over the Yom.
Oh, Yitzi, you lost your grandmother? Yitzi?
Yes, her name was Rivka Bas Asher.
We're over Yom Tov?
Yeah, on the second day of Rosh Hashanah.
We'll learn for Yitzi's grandmother, Rivka Bas Asher. On the Shama should have a great aliyah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol nהיה b'dvaro. Okay. I want to point out that after a long, tiring Tanis, and after a long 3-day Yom Tov, to have 28 Zoomers tuning in, and people here, and everybody else, it's a big Kiddush Hashem, and bravo to all of you. It should be a schutz for all of us for the new year. Ibaylahu, Beis Kur Stomamai. The Gemara says that the Gemara says that if I tell Marshall I'm selling you Beis Kur Mida Bechevel, measured by a rope, I have to give him the exact amount. Gemara on the bottom of Kuf Gimel Amud Beis. If I say to him Beis Kur Yeser or Chaser, less or more, then even if, is that what I'm up to? No. Very good. Yeah, you're right. I tried to pull a fast one over here. So you're correct. I tried to pull a fast one. We're holding 3 lines from the bottom. Three lines from the bottom of Daf Kuf Beis Amud Beis. So Tanan Hasam. We learned over there, and Hamaktis Sadeyu B'Shas Hayovel. If, let's say, Marshall sanctifies his field during the time of Yovel. Now we know that to redeem it back from Hektish, the Torah gives a formula. No matter what the quality of land is, you could redeem an area of a chaymer sa'irim where you could plant a kur, a chaymer is a kur, of barley seed for 50 shkalim. And the 50 shkalim is only if it's for the full 49 years. And therefore, if you dedicate it if you want to redeem it in the middle, then you take the amount of 50 shkalim and you deduct the amount of years, and you only have to redeem it to that prorated amount. As we welcome in Gedalia Engel and Dr. Udell, rounding us off to a very, very civilized 30 Zoomers. Now, so Tanan Hasam, Hamakdish Sadeya B'Shas HaYovel, if Marshall dedicates his field during the time of Yovel, Noisen Loi the Beis Zera Chaymer Sa'irim, we allow him to redeem it, or an area of a kur, the stock blanket rate of 50 shekel kesef, of 50 shekel kesef for the 49 years. And that's no matter how much the market price is of the area. If there was clefts, deep 10 tvachim, or rocks, high 10 tvachim, they're not measured together with the field. They're not measured together with the field. You see, the pasuk says that the shear is for stay zera, for a field for planting. And since these clefts or these rocks are not a field for planting, they're not counted in the measure. Rather, he would have to redeem them for their market value. Says the Gemara, Vamai. Why? Even if they're not counted together with the field, Likteshu ba'apei namshayu. They should be sanctified by themselves, and we should also give them the rate of 50 shekel, and of course we would prorate it since it's less than a kur. Maybe you'll say that anything that is not the minimum size of a chaymer sa'irim, which is a base kur, like kache, in such a case, it doesn't become sanctified as a stei achuza, as an ancestral field, where it gets this blanket rate, but that's not true. Vatanya, it says stay zera, stay. Matam alaymer. It says the area to plant a kur of sa'irim for 50 shekel. I only know if you sanctify the minimum of a kur. Menayin l'rabis lesech, which is a half a kur, 15 sa, or the chatzi lesech, a quarter of a kur, or sa, or if you makdish a sa, or tarkav is 3 kav, a half a sa. Tarkav is a corruption of trei v'kav, 3 kav, or a chatzi tarkav, 1.5 kav. How do we know that we prorate the amount of 50 shekel to apply to these fractions? Talmud Leimer, it says stay mikomakim, any size of a field. So therefore, it comes back to the question, why don't we say that the clefts in the ground that are deep 10 tefachim should themselves be evaluated with this formula? Why do you have to redeem them according to their market value? This is talking about clefts that are full of water, and since they're full of water, therefore they're not plantable, so they're not considered a stei zera. And dekanami diktani dumya dislam. We say it's comparable to rocks, just like rocks can't be planted. This also can't be planted. Shma mina. So the Gemara says, Iachi, if it's full of water, then why, if it's less than 10 tfachim, is it measured with the land? Iachi afilu pochis mikan nami. Says the Gemara, Hano nagane da'ara mikri. These are like the fountains of the land, or shidre da'ara mikru, or the rocks that are not high 10 tfachim are considered the spines of the land, and they're bottled to the land. So the Gemara says, Hochamai, in our case over here, where it says that I sold the field to Marshall, so if the clefts are deep 10 tfachim, we don't count that in the measurement of the kur. Is it talking about where it's filled with water, or is it even if it's not filled with water and it's cultivatable? Is there such a word? Cultivatable? Shelley is making a face.
It flies in my language.
Is it able to be cultivated? Anyway, I don't know. Cultivatable sounds pretty good to me.
If we use it for 10 years, it'll be in the common vernacular, so keep going with the shir. It's great.
Is Ruain Pollock here? No, he's not here. My English major.
The word is cultivable.
Oh, so that's a word.
No, it's cultivable.
Cultivable and not cultivatable. Cultivable. Okay.
Sounds like a babble.
Okay. I like cultivatable better, but okay. So cultivable. Wow, cute word. So says the
3 times fast.
So says the Gemara. The truth of the matter is, Amar Papa Afal Pisha Ein Malayin Mayim. Even if the clefts that are deep 10 tfachim are not full of water, Marshall doesn't have to accept it. My timer. Marshall doesn't want to have to cultivate stuff on different levels. Ein Adam writes a Shiyiten Ma'oisa b'makam echad. Marshall is not forking over money for a kur, and he's going to have to do on 2 or 3 levels because I'm giving him clefts in different places. But it says the case of clefts that are deep 10 tfachim and rocks that are high 10 tfachim. It says that it has to be similar to the rocks. They're not plantable. They're not cultivable. Doesn't that imply that the law is only because they're not cultivable? They're full of water. Says the Gemara, no, ki kantani dumya dislaim apoches mikan. That Marshall has to accept the clefts that are not deep 10 tfachim, even if they're full of water and even if they're like the rocks, that they're not cultivable, but they're bottled to the land because they're called the basins of the land or the spines of the land.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
There is a word, cultivatable. It's an adjective.
Okay, very good.
I just looked it up.
Very good. So it's an ikadamre. So there's cultivable and cultivatable.
Right.
Very good. Okay. I stand right.
Yerushalmi once bodily.
So there, Shelley. I don't know. I thought it schmecked good. You know what I mean? Anyway.
So what do you do with these rocks anyway? You leave them there? You take them off? You just clip them?
He could do whatever he wants.
I mean, how do you plant?
You don't. He would have to hire somebody to remove them.
So this one somebody's.
So he can't take off land, money for that?
No.
He can't.
No.
It's only when it was a hectare field that he's now redeeming.
No, this is the din of selling.
Oh, so we left.
Right, we left that.
I see.
Now, Amar Reb Yitzchak. So now Reb Yitzchak comes and modifies this. Because, look, even though it's martial, even though it's martial, there's a limit to how much rock he has to accept in 30 in 30 sa. I mean, I could sell him a field with a bunch of rocks, and he won't be able to plant anything. And I'll tell him it's less than 10 tvachim. So the Gemara modifies this. Amar Reb Yitzchak Troshim she'amru, the rocky area that I sell him is only base arba'as kav. It's only to the maximum of 4 kav. In other words, 2/3 of a sa in 30 sa. And says the Gemara, Amar Rav Ukva bar Chama, v'hu shemuvloin b'chameshes kav. That's only if it's absorbed in the area of 5 kav. In other words, there's a limit to how much I could sell it to him. If the rocks are concentrated in less than 5 kav, even if they're 4 kav, he doesn't have to accept it. Then they're not measured with the field. In other words, it has to be at least even the 4 kav has to be distributed over 5 kav. If it's more concentrated than that, even if it's 4 kav, he doesn't have to accept it. Now, Reb Chia bar Abba Amar Reb Yochanan, he disagrees. Reb Chia bar Abba says, "V'hu shemivloim beruba shel sada." The only time he has to accept 4 kav is only if it's distributed through the majority of the area. But if they're more concentrated than that, it really diminishes the value of the land, and he doesn't have to accept it. So now the Gemara asks a real technical question. According to Rav Chia bar Abba, he says that they have to be distributed through the majority of the land. So therefore, it doesn't really upset any part of the land very seriously. But if it's not distributed through the majority of the land, then he doesn't have to accept it. So now, this is a real interesting question. Boy Reb Chia bar Abba, Ruban b'miuta. If the majority of the 4 kav is distributed in a very small part of the field, or mi'utan beruba, and the minority of the 4 kav is distributed throughout the majority of the field, will Marshall still have to accept it? Or Marshall says, look, Ruba is Kekula, and the majority of the 4 kav is in a very small area, I don't want to accept it. Mao, what's the din? So for that, we need Mashiach. Take Tishbi Yataritz Kushas V'Bayis. Now, more questions. Boy Reb Yirmiyah, Kishir Mahu. What if the ashir, or the Artsco pronunciation is kisher. A share is like a bracelet. A bracelet worn around the wrist is called a share. If the racks are like a circle in the field, so it really gets in the way of the plow in a large area of the field, what's the din? Kishura ma'u. What if it's like a line? It's tadinan ma'u. What if they're like the horns of an animal? And you see in Rashi the picture of the horns. So again, it's going to really invade the plow. Or derech akalosan ma'u. What if it's a zigzag? So you see in Rashi a picture of a zigzag. So the Gemara says, everybody's trying to pass off these fields to their beloved Marshal. So, Teku, Tishbi Yataritz Kushim Zibai. So Eliyahu Hanavi is going to know all about Marshal, and he's going to have a lot of explaining to do. Now, Tana. Ima Yisela Yechidi. If it was if there was a rack, one stationary rack, one isolated rack that was next to the border of the field. So I sold Marshall a field, and next to the border of the field, outside of the field, was a rack. Can I include that rack in the sale? Afilu koshu, even if it's a small rack, einim darima. It's not measured with it, because that's not called the spine of the land, because it's outside of the land. And similarly, if it's in the border, and it's near the border, then afilu koshu, even if it's small, einid nidima. It's not measured with it. As we welcome in Michael Avram, who was racing over here, says the Gemara, must have had a very big meal, was a hungry man. It's a Shana Rishina. Shana Rishina, you got to eat with your wife. So, how many courses? That's what I figured. There was a dessert, crepes, Suzettes. It was a complicated meal. And then Aseris made tshuva, you have to bench with kavana, so it took him a long time to bench. You know, you should know that it's the Nite Gavriel, that's what Shana Rishayna means. The Nite Gavriel says that in benching, you should say during Aseris made tshuva, the whole Aseris made tshuva, Harachaman Yichadish Aleinu, as Hashana Hazel L'Toiva V'Livracha, the whole Aseris made tshuva. So when Michal Avram says that Harachaman, he has to have a lot of kavana. The Gemara says, Boy Rapapa, Mifsik offer bein tayimau. Let's say I sell to Marshall land, by the border there's a little earth, and then after that little earth, a rock, could I count that rock in Teku? It's pretty much near the border, but there's a little earth less than 3 tefachim. So less than 3 tefachim is the share of Lovad. And therefore, since it's the share of Lovad, we might think that it's okay. That we might think it's considered next to the border, and it can't be counted with it. So, Teku Tishbi Yataritz Kushbis Ribayas. Boy Ravashi. Oh, interesting question. When I sell it to Marshall, if it's rak, it can't be counted in the sale. But what if there's offer milmata v'tsun malamala? There's earth below it, rak on top of it. Or offer milmala v'tsun milmata. There's earth on top, but below it is rak. Mao, can it be counted? Again, teku tishbi yataritz kushas bi'iboyis. We want to welcome in Richard. We know you're strange. We want
tell me a good field, it would be a take also. I don't get it.
We want to welcome in Richard Rosenzweig, Jack Silverman, and Michal Druckman from Delaware. We now start the new Mishnah. Base kur offer ani moichelach. Marshall, I'm selling you a base kur offer. Mida b'chevel. Measured by the rope. Now, measured by the rope means exactly. Piches koshu, if I give him a little less, yanake. I have to deduct from the price. Hoisu koshu, if I give him a little extra, yazer. He has to return me the extra. However, v'im amar hein choser hein yeser, if I say it might be a little less, it might be a little more, then afilu piches roivelusa, even if I give him less than a quarter a kav per saw, since there's 30 saw, I give him less than 30 quarter calves. So what's 4 into 30? 4 into 30 is 7 and 7.5. So even if it equals the less than 7.5 kav, higiyu, he has to accept it. Yoyser Mekan, if it's more than that, Yasa Keshman. Then Marshall could make a calculation and say, look, you gave me less 8 kav, then, you're either going to, you got to deduct from the price. And if he gives it extra, now, if I give him extra, 8 kav, so he has to return to me. Now, what does he return to me? Does he return to me money, or does he return to me the karka? So the Gemara says, Ma'u ma'azaloi mois. He returns to me money. If I want him to return to me the piece of land of 8 kav, himrotza ma'azaloi karka, then I could insist that he should return me the 8 kav of land. Why did the Chacham say that Marshall should return me the value of 8 kav? Because the Rabbanan didn't want me to get stuck with a tiny little piece that is not cultivatable of 8 kav. To strengthen me, because they don't want me to be stuck with such a small piece. You see, because the din is that if the differential is 9 kav, now 9 kav is considered a plantable area. She'im shayir beside the base tisha kav, 9 kav, then he has to return me the land. Or begina base chatzi kav, and in the garden, an area of a half a kav which is cultivatable. Or kedivrei Rabbi Akiva base raiva, then ma'azal karka. Now, I'm going to be gyrus the next part of the Mishnah, the way the Gemara changes the girsa. If I give him an overture that's more than 7.5 kav, he doesn't just have to return me the overture. Let's say it's 8 kav. He doesn't have to only give me a half kav. Elas kol hamoiser. Elas kol harayva. He has to give me the full rayva per saw as well. In other words, once there's an overture of more than 7.5 kav, he doesn't have to just give me the extra half a kav that it went over, but then he has to give me everything that went over. And again, if it's less than 9 kav, he has to return me the money so as not to stick me with a non-cultivatable piece of karka. But if I want the land, then Marshall has to return me the land. Marshall really is a pain in the neck. Now,
Figured it out finally.
yeah, right. Well, that's from all the Frankfurters.
That's somewhere else. That's
Okay, so I just want to tell the Eilam that I did the Mishnah already. It will be online shortly. I didn't upload anything yet. And I want you to look for, I'm also uploading, is a shir that's about 15 minutes called Lessons from Tzum Gedalia, which is very worthwhile to look at. So look for that on YouTube and on it's already on Facebook and on Torah Anytime. It's already on Kol HaLashon. Tomorrow night we're back to 8 o'clock.